How's it going, everyone? I'm very excited about this video because in front of me I have the Final Fantasy VII Zack figure by Gametoys. Now, to be completely transparent, this is an unlicensed figure, but it is top quality. If you haven't seen the Gametoys videos I covered before of Sephiroth and Cloud, I recommend definitely checking those out because you will see how good quality Gametoys make their figures. So it's a sad thing that it's not licensed, but here we have it. I had to wait a while to get mine from Toys Wonderland, but it finally came just before the end of the year. So in front of me I have the Zack figure Soldier First Class, but you might see a little box behind that, and that's actually going to be Zack Soldier Second Class as well. So I got both of them, which is going to be great. So we're going to take a look at both of these. So here's the packaging first and foremost. This should be quite familiar to anyone that's already seen the Sephiroth and Cloud one. So it's kind of using the same sort of motif kind of design language of it, which is great. I really like the minimalistic approach to it, and just kind of using 7 because that's what it is, Final Fantasy 7, and then kind of like a character motif of some sort. So you had the wings on the package for Sephiroth, and then Clouds is different. I can't remember what it was now. Buster Sword, I think it was. And then here you've got Zack, which is going to use that kind of ornate design of the guard of his Buster Sword, based on Crisis Core when it originally came out, not Reunion. But otherwise, you can see it's got like a foil 7 there. The actual ornate design here is not foil. Got some foil down at the bottom there with Zack Soldier First Class Gametoys, 1/6 scale collectible figure. So pretty minimalistic box, but I really like it. That continues throughout that kind of banner approach to it, I guess. The back is quite plain, just got some logos down at the bottom there of Gametoys, GT-005. If you're wondering what 1 to 4 is, that's going to be Ichigo from Bleach, Ichigo, White Ichigo from Bleach again, then Sephiroth, Cloud, and now we've got Zack as well. So again, this is an unlicensed figure, but it's really something I'm quite excited to get, and this is one of my most anticipated figures for this year. This is the Soldier Second Class box, so it's a bit smaller. This is basically the second class version of Zack, just the body, but the head is actually going to be included in the first class one. So trying not to get confused with that, we'll go through it all. Similar sort of design language, but here it's a bit more simplified and slightly different. Smaller package, overall footprint in general. 7 Zack Soldier Second Class, all of that is in foil again, but then that design motif down there from what he has in his waistband, what the Soldier guys have on their waistband, that's down at the bottom, and that wraps around as well, you can see. And then on the back it's quite plain, like so. It is quite plain, but as I mentioned again, I really like this design language approach, and it's probably more plain than Cloud, but either way I really like the package so far. But let's get it open because I had a sneak peek and it looks absolutely stunning. When you do open the box, you will be greeted with the instruction sheet, which I do recommend reading. It's quite similar to the Cloud one. Get a hairdryer if you're having trouble getting the kind of hands swapped in and out. Just be careful how much kind of time you use on the parts and how much heat you use as well. You'll be greeted with some sponge, which we'll put to the side, and just like the Cloud and Sephiroth, it is going to be in kind of like a layered formation inside the box, which is pretty good. So you'll have the figure on the top and some accessories there in one kind of layer, and then you'll have the additional layer like so. The second class box is much simpler. You will just get the sponge top layer there, and then you would just have the actual spare body kind of sitting there like so. There is no sandwich layer or anything like that. It's just going to be a single layer right there. But let's take a look at both figures. So here we have Zack Soldier First Class on the left and Soldier Second Class on the right. Remember, they are sold separately. I just got them both together as well. But if you do get Soldier First Class, then you'll get the second class head. If you buy the second class body only, well, that's it. You only get the body. Well, I'll explain that more later on. Before we get into those very cool looking figures standing there, we'll talk about the option part. So quickly, first is going to be the base stand. So Soldier First Class Zack, I'm just going to call him First Class Zack from now on. He's the only one that comes with that base. Second class one doesn't come with that base. The base should be familiar if you've got Sephiroth or Cloud. It's the exact same base, but it doesn't have the telescope long one that Sephiroth has because he doesn't need to fly. And yeah, otherwise it's pretty easy to assemble. I've already put Zack on top because I was kind of sort of struggling for space here. You do get a silver name plaque here, Zack Fair. Again, he doesn't come with one. The second class one does not come with one. I haven't stuck mine on there. I've just kind of placed it there just for demonstration purposes. Moving on from the display, you also get letters from Aerith. So this comes in English here. I'll pause it just for a moment. If you want to read it, pause it yourself as well. And then we've got one in Chinese. That's Japanese one actually, and then this is the Chinese one. So 3 different languages of the same letter. Kind of a nice touch. I wasn't really expecting that. I did see it in other people's videos, but yeah, interesting that they decided to add that. First Class Zack also comes with the dumb apple, and this is going to be one that's already got a little bit of a bite out of it. To be honest, I actually forgot what the dumb apple was because well, it's been years since I played Crisis Core, and that was in Japanese when it first came out on the PSP. So I'm still yet to go play Crisis Core Reunion. So this is the dumb apple. It's actually pretty good sculpt overall, and you can actually use a specific hand to hold that if you want, which I'll show you in just a moment as well. And that dumb apple only comes with First Class Zack. First Class Zack also comes with a bag of material similar to what the Cloud Gametoys figure also had. So you've got 2 of each color basically, and they are quite tiny, so try not to lose them. I've kept them in the little bag so I don't lose them myself. Also in that bag is going to be this tiny green materia / Buster Sword holder bit as well. So if you saw the Cloud video or you own the Cloud one, this might be quite familiar. This basically allows Zack to plug it onto the back of him and therefore carry the Buster Sword on his back as well. And this little piece here is just to use to force out material from the Buster Sword if you're going to use it or not. And finally, this little piece is going to be to hold the basic Soldier Sword. You can use it on First Class Zack if you want to, but it's really there to use it when on the Second Class body if you have that. In my case, which I do. Let's talk about the hands and the arms as well. So actually, to keep it simple first, Second Class Zack only comes with 1 pair of hand, and that's actually just going to be this one here. So this is just going to be to hold the sword, Buster Sword, or it's going to be the Soldier basic sword as well. So Zack comes with a pair. First Class Zack, they're both called Zack. So First Class Zack comes with his own pair, and Second Class Zack only comes with this pair. So I've kind of swapped hands already there, you can see. But this gives you a close look at the hands themselves. All of the hands have a really nice looking texture detail on them, that kind of leather grain effect. Really looks lovely. Love the paintwork going on as well along the knuckles. Just that light browns, dark browns. All of it looks really, really good. You got this nice little slit here and the stitching to go around. The detail is super on point here. It's quite similar to Cloud's one. I think the only difference, or the main difference, is going to be this kind of bracelet here. I can't remember if Cloud had that one. I'm pretty sure he didn't, but I can't remember. I'm too lazy to also pull out my Cloud. I packed everything away. But yeah, these hands, not just that one hand, all of these hands are really awesome. So again, to repeat, Zack Second Class only comes with the sword holding hand. He doesn't come with anything else. Everything else is going to be with First Class Zack. So this included this 2-finger pointing one of, well, you can use it however you want, saluting, a gesture to go, however, pointing, shooting a gun, whatever you want to do. So this one is also using the same awesome looking detail and paint. All of that is really on point with this one. Again, this only comes with First Class Zack. It doesn't come with Second Class Zack. Then you've got this single individual hand, again for the right hand. And this one is going to be to hold that apple that I mentioned. It's not the best grip. I'm going to just hold it or place it in the hand like this. So you're going to have to kind of angle it a little bit and then play around with it. But effectively, you want to use this hand to hold this apple as if it's just taken a bite. So really cool hand to have. And of course you've got fists, again only for the First Class version of Zack. Same again, really awesome paintwork, really nice leather effect going on. Just the details on them, even just around here you can see the stitching details just looks super, super good. And again, talking about the leather effect of it all, it just looks really, really nice. Just a word of note though, if you do plan to swap hand parts, which I'm sure you will, the advice is try and heat up the hand itself, like that kind of socket there, or the peg, and that should hopefully make it a little bit easier. Sometimes you might have trouble doing it, sometimes you won't. It just really kind of depends. Try it first, as in try changing it first and see what happens. I've left one hand on one of the arms already again, so this actual hand is the same. It's going to be to hold the sword, so they do come as a pair. So First Class Zack comes with a pair of this hand, and also Second Class comes with only this pair of hands. Hopefully that's made it clear. Now this kind of leads me on to the arms themselves. So actually you might notice already what I've done. So starting on the right with Second Class Zack, he's got the seamless arms on him already. By default, he doesn't come with the seamless arms already attached. You have to swap them off. And then similar to the First Class Zack, same thing happens. So on the, as you can see, on his right arm is the jointed arm, and then on the left arm is the seamless one. You have to swap those on the seamless ones. So I'm actually being super reckless and careless here, just using my fingers here. Usually what I try to do when I handle these arms, especially when changing them, is I will actually use the bag that these are held in, and then basically I would just kind of use it, wrap it around, and just kind of force it in and handle it like that. So I don't get any kind of oil or excessive oil on it that I am already. Now, effectively, the arms are going to be the same for both First Class Zack and Second Class Zack. So I'll just show you it the one time. So on the top, we've got the seamless one, or on the left, we've got the seamless one. And then on the right, we've got the jointed one. So for longevity, this jointed one on the right is probably going to be much more suitable and better than the one on the right. This one, you know, I think it's going to be a little bit down to luck. So, and also where you live. This can crack over time. Some people's Cloud and Sephiroth has cracked Cloud. I mean, because he also has seamless arms. And people who've collected like these sort of figures before, they probably know how to look after them. I'm still quite new to this personally. It's already getting a little bit sticky, not too bad. You may also notice there's a little bit of ink stains around this kind of armpit area, and that's just because of the dye from First Class Zack's clothes. That's a known problem with this figure, by the way, is that whichever arm you've got, especially this silicone arm, the seamless arms, the dye transfers onto the arms. You can wash it out, so don't worry too much. You can do it. It's just going to be a little bit of hassle. Now, I've not had my figure for too long, so the dye is quite minimal at the moment, but that dye is quite strong. It definitely does transfer a lot more later on as well. And I'll show you that in just a second too. But generally speaking though, for the arms, the silicone arms are super nice. These seamless arms, really, really good. The only downside, or maybe not the only downside, but one of the downsides is the seams are a little bit evident. Now, I noticed this on a lot of people's other videos as well, for people who've got the figure already in hand. So you can see the outer side and the inner side of the arm. It is quite evident. I should probably double check the Cloud, because from my recollection, my Cloud only had it evident on one side. I think it was the reverse side, and then a little bit at the armpit. But this Zack is quite evident over here. The other arm is quite similar as well, and the same for the second class one too. Now again, as I mentioned, if you are going to change parts, when it comes to using the seamless one, my recommendation is get the arm on its own, add the hand, and then add the arm back to the figure. That's how I would do it. And of course, use the plastic wrap to hold onto this as well, and then force the hand on. I'm not going to do that on the video just because it is a little bit tricky. It's not like my usual kind of 6-inch figures that are much more simpler to do on camera. This one's a little bit trickier, and I don't want to ruin anything. Just to point out this little bit here, the peg. This peg is in a wrap. This goes into the figure itself. But the reason I also left that left arm in is this peg got stuck in the body. So I can't actually use anything but the left arm of this seamless one now until it decides to come out. So I'm not sure if that's a known issue as well, but it just got stuck with mine after a few times swapping the arms out. It's pretty good though. I mean, I like using this one more than this jointed arm, to be quite honest, but really it is up to you where you're located, temperature conditions, things like that. But this is really cool to still see the seamless arms. I think the seamless arms just make the figure look so much more, it just gives it so much more oomph in my opinion, whether it's first class Zack or second class Zack. So just to kind of recap again, both class Zacks do come with seamless arms and articulated arms. Now let's quickly talk about the articulation in the arms. You've got the usual hand sort of articulation there. It's going to be slightly hindered because of the kind of cuffs of the gloves. You've got the elbow bend like so there, and then this is how it's going to look when you've got the naked arm, like this one basically. You got a little bit of a twist at the bicep. It's not super dramatic. I think Cloud was about the same as well, and then you've got the shoulder goes up and down. It's a little bit harder to do without it being in the body, but that's basically, you can imagine it. It's just going to be simple. Going back to the seamless arms, then the articulation is going to look a bit like this. I'm not going to go full extension or like contraction with these. You got the same kind of peg thing here. It's a bit difficult to do it on camera, but it does move. And then of course the same sort of wrist sort of motion as well. When you do get the arm out, you may notice actually it's kind of bending backwards at times. So just be careful. Don't just go full on backwards and snap it the other way. Just find where the bend actually is and then carry on like so. But otherwise they both function pretty much the same way. Then we come on to Zack's Buster Sword. So actually first class Zack comes with both swords. The second class body is quite bare. It is basically the dressed body only, without the head and without the weapons. So you need first class Zack basically. So this is Zack's Buster Sword from Crisis Core back when it first came out on the PSP. So what they've done in Crisis Core Reunion is they've actually updated his Buster Sword to reflect more what Cloud has in Final Fantasy VII Remake. So they both look much more similar now. Basically, it's this little guard bit here. This is quite ornate at this stage in this version of the game, but in modern times now, as in today's version of the game, it's gone back to the kind of industrial look where it's got those rivets in there instead. I think the handle color is slightly different as well. So it depends on your preference on which one you like most in terms of the Buster Sword. I like both of them. I do like this one as well. And I guess because of Crisis Core, the original game, I always associated this one with Zack. Of course, he wasn't the original owner, but still, I associate it with Zack. But in terms of the version that we're talking about here, the details on it are super nice. You can see all the kind of wavy pattern details on the guard here in that gold fashion as well. Gold accent around the interior section here as well. Also the pommel bit in gold as well, and then the hand wrap's going to be in red kind of leather texture, which is really nice as well. The rest of the Buster Sword is quite similar to what Cloud came with there, so it's two-tone. You got the blade section and then the blunt section, which is rough, and you got that texture down there as well, so it looks really cool. Otherwise, you can pretty much swap this Buster Sword out and get Cloud's one if you've got this Cloud Gametoys one as well if you want to. But again, I've got that packed away, so we're just going to stick with this Crisis Core Buster Sword here. Now, just to quickly show you, just pull off the end bit and then you got to feed this into the gripping hands to get Zack to equip the Buster Sword. So it's quite straightforward to do, but that is the Buster Sword and it looks pretty good. It is quite big, as you might expect. And then the final part is going to be the Soldier basic sword here. And just a key difference straight away, by the way, is this is actually die cast. This Buster Sword here is just plastic, and then this, well, you can't hear it, but it's actually die cast and it weighs quite a bit. I'm not sure what the difference is. I mean, by the way, you could probably use this as a letter opener if you wanted to. I'm not sure why they did that. Probably because the Buster Sword would weigh quite a bit, because this is already quite heavy on its own. But it looks pretty good. I love the way, by the way, hopefully this can focus in. You've got the rust on the edge of both sides of the blade. Hopefully you guys can make that out. It just looks so good. It's nice attention to detail. My fingerprints are getting all over this, by the way. But I love that little detail there. This is coming up to the handle now. So you've got that gold little accent down the center, coming up to the gold accent, which has that usual sort of the Shinra symbol that usually they have on the waist as well. And then that's the other side, and then you come to the handle. The handle looks really nice, by the way. It just looks really nice in photos and video. Like the way light comes off of this is great. It's not really traditional sort of hand wraps that the Buster Sword has. It's just got this kind of nice kind of sculpted look to it, which looks, yeah, it looks great. It looks great. It looks a little bit like scales to me. Either way, it looks great. Similar to the Buster Sword, you just got to pull off the top here, and that's it. It's a little bit, I don't know, leaves me a little bit worried that this might actually just go flying one day. So I probably would have preferred they did like a screw-on version of this just to keep it secure. Otherwise though, really cool looking sword, and I'm glad they included it. But now it just makes me want a metal version of the Buster Sword, even if it is going to be super heavy. Just to reiterate again, both these swords come with this guy, Zack First Class. It does not come with Second Class. Second Class is body only, no head. Keep that in mind. I'm going to repeat it a few times in this video because I think the listings got a little bit confusing with that. So moving on to the figure itself, we're going to have a look at First Class Zack first, and then we'll have a look at Second Class and kind of compare them as well. So on immediate inspection, the head sculpt on this guy and the Second Class one, actually really awesome stuff, flipping amazing stuff. Really consistent with Cloud and Sephiroth. This like Gametoys are really just, yeah, knocking it out of the park with this stuff as well. And before I forget, I just want to comment on the neck portion of this. So actually, as people got hands-on with the figure, I'm late to the party, by the way, it was apparent that actually Zack's head is sitting a little bit too low. His neck should be a little bit more visible, the skin on his neck, but it's not. It's not super evident depending on the angle and the pose you're using, but a straight pose, it can, to me anyway, it looks slightly off. Not a deal breaker, just slightly off. Basically, the neck socket in the actual head sculpt is sitting a little bit too high. And I guess the way to kind of fix that is leave the head off, like pull it off and then just leave it resting. Big risk is that the head falls away, or you can just kind of jerry rig it yourself if you want to. I kind of do a hybrid of leaving the neck off and stuffing it with a little bit of paper or foiling paper just to kind of add like, say, a teeny weeny amount of extra like padding so his neck can be a little bit more visible. At this stage though, I've only got it like on normally so the head doesn't go flying off. So you only get this one regular head sculpt as well, by the way. But it looks amazing. So going back to the way it looks, give you a closer look at it. This guy looks absolutely stunning. The hair sculpt, ooh, that hair sculpt just looks super good. I'm going to shift it to the left a bit so you can see the spikes. Look really, really good. I'm guessing though that over time, if you're constantly playing around with the hair, like taking it on and off or something, you may find that the spikes kind of, I don't know, droop down a bit. Maybe using a hairdryer a little bit and then kind of lifting them might kind of rectify that. I don't know. Just guessing, just kind of speaking my mind here. But otherwise, I really like the way this head sculpt looks. It looks amazing. And I love that little kind of two hair strand bit just coming out there as well. We can also see that his face has a scar down on the left cheek down there as well, which is great. I love the expression that's going on there. And his eyes look so good. The Mako infused eyes looks super good there as well. So yeah, really, really good. Real nitpicky is maybe I would have preferred if they kind of left this loose and not sculpted it into the face. But otherwise, yeah, I like it. There's a slight paint bit where the skin of the paint tone skin is a little bit more here, I feel, than it is on this side, but you know, it's only because I'm looking at it so closely now. Otherwise, I'm actually quite fine with it. But yeah, really awesome looking face sculpt. I love what they did there. Again, kudos to Gametoys' creative team for just, yeah, what a gorgeous looking head sculpt. We come down to the rest of the body then. So he's wearing his first class outfit. So the first class one, depending on the game, depending on the movie, depending on the artwork, whatever, the color of the first class soldier uniform isn't always that consistent. So they're going with the Crisis Core colors, which is more of a navy blue. And I mean, you might be seeing black in some of the like promo artworks for Final Fantasy VII Remake. But yeah, we've gone with navy blue here, which Gametoys Cloud was using second class colors, which you can see back there. Which I guess maybe they have to reissue Cloud. Maybe that would be good if they did. But yeah, so you can see navy blue for the sweater there, and then down at the pants as well, which all look really good. If you're familiar with the Cloud one, this looks really on point as well. Same consistent quality, just looks amazing. You got the leather straps there, which is probably more like rubber, I guess. Not really sure of the material, but it looks great. It's just like the hands. You've got the kind of gradient painting, light browns, dark browns, the leather effect details there, the rivet details there, buckle strap there. All of that looks really, really good. I love the way this is done. You got the waist strap here, which is great as well. It's quite similar, if not the same, as Cloud's. Maybe a slight color difference as well, but it looks really good otherwise. His shoulder guards also look really good. You got some really cool details actually right at this point here. It doesn't look, it's not scratches. Initially it looks like scratches, but it's actually patterned work up this point here. And then you got some weathering here and there, which looks really nice as well. So his top half is looking really good, but just wanted to point out that dye section. So let's kind of move his arm up, and then I'll show you by revealing his hairy armpits. Not his hairy armpits, but look, this is what I mean. So you can see now the glimpse of his actual body underneath the shirt, and the dye just really seeps and leaks through. So it's fortunate that it's not super massive at this stage, but I have seen people discuss it a lot where they've used the seamless arms and then it transfers over. As I mentioned earlier on, if the dye does transfer over to these arms, you can wash it out. Try and do it sooner rather than later so it doesn't become permanent, but it is a little bit of a hassle, that's true. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to transfer as much on the kind of plastic arms. I don't really know yet, but it seems okay. But as I mentioned earlier on, for longevity, you're probably going to want to stick with these arms and use these a little bit more sparingly. Continuing with the way the figure looks, then you've got the waistbands there, or the belt buckles there, which looks really good. Double belts, as you know, this is what soldier uniforms wear, I guess. But that looks pretty good as well. You got a stitching effect and all of that, really nice. The pants are kind of padded here. I mean, I would say you can feel it, but you can feel it if you feel it. Like if you've got your hands on with your own figure, you can definitely feel that. And then yeah, they kind of taper down, or not taper down, they puff it out at the calves before tapering back down, and then tucked into really amazing leather looking boots. They are basically rubber, just like Cloud's boots as well. Really great looking boots. I love it. They do allow some kind of motion. They're not kind of fixed. You'll have to play around with these if you don't want to use the stand. I would recommend using the stand, by the way. But otherwise, yes, very awesome looking boots. And here's the underside with the sole. Really good stuff. Love it. Absolutely love those boots. And then that's the way Zack looks. I actually didn't show you the reverse side or the back in detail. So just to kind of show you, this is where you're going to take off this little cap here, and then we're going to plug the Buster Sword in just a moment. But this is the reverse side of back, and this is how his hair looks there. Looks really, really good. Let's jump onto second class Zack before we then equip it with Buster Sword. So here we've got second class Zack. Now, not to sound like a broken record, you do have to get first class Zack to get the head, and then the extra hand, and then the sword as well. Second class Zack is just going to be the body, the two types of arms, and then the hand only, the one pair of hands. So keep that in mind. So second class Zack is of course going to be in the colors for second class soldiers. So that's going to be in this kind of more royalish blue, I guess. It's leaning towards indigo blue maybe. It's basically not as black as the other one, or not as dark blue as first class. It depends on the media that you look at. Again, like it's been pretty inconsistent over the years. I think when Final Fantasy VII first came out, Cloud was basically wearing purple, right, in the game, and then it kind of shifted to navy blue, black, and so on. And even in 7 Remake, in the menu, he's wearing black, and then in-game, it doesn't really look black. So very, very confusing. I'm not sure what color that they actually want to use for first class and second class. But here we go. We've got second class like this. And I personally like it. I think it looks really, really solid. It looks great. And just, yeah, again, that head sculpt, it just looks amazing. I might be leaning towards this head sculpt, but yeah, let's just have a closer look at that head sculpt right now. So just to kind of catch some people up if they're not sure what Zack is all about. So this one, second class Zack, you can probably guess that is when he was a bit younger. So this is kind of what, 4 years before first class Zack, roughly, give or take. So his hair was a little bit different and he just looks a little bit more youthful. And based on Crisis Core game, he kind of goes from really happy-go-lucky to just happy, I guess. But he's still a very like happy kind of good guy. Yeah, I like him. I really am a big fan of Zack. He's my favorite Final Fantasy VII character. But yeah, this is the more youthful appearance where he's got the really wild, really kind of stereotypical anime boy hair these days. But it looks great. To be quite honest, I used to have hair a little bit like this. I was modeling it after Zack as well. But that's a story for another time. But I love the hair sculpt here. It's just, again, so good. Look at this hair sculpt. Every spike is just so cool. So cool. It is a little bit more wet looking just above the ears here. Like he's just kind of freshly gelled his hair. But, you know, that's just being nitpicky. But yes, every spike looks so good. Now, when I do lay this figure down, if I'm swapping parts, I tend to lay him down sideways like this, so I don't blunt any of the kind of hair spikes. But yeah, it just looks so beautiful. You can't deny the hair on this sculpt just looks amazing. Now, again, their face itself also looks great. He doesn't have the scar because this is pre-scar. So he's got a clean face there. And he's got the nice bright blue eyes as well. Very heroic looking face, youthful face. I really like this capture. It's captured really, really well. And I think I am leaning to preferring this one. They're both amazing, excellent head sculpts. So you can't go wrong. Honestly, you can't go wrong. And if you're going to buy both figures, then, well, just have them both on display. I think they just both look so gorgeous. Like it's hard to kind of not stare at it, because when you open the box, just like when I opened Cloud and Sephiroth, the head sculpts just really blew me away, including like White Ichigo. I've got that as well. So yeah, it's, not to kind of drag on this story. The head sculpts, truly phenomenal work from Gametoys. And it's surprising still, right, that this is an unlicensed figure. Can you believe it? It's an unlicensed figure. For the rest of the body though, it is pretty much the same as first class. There is some slight color differences on these leather straps. They're slightly lighter brown than what first class Zack has. I think the pauldrons are basically the same though. I think size wise they're about the same. For mine, the right one droops a little bit lower. I mean, not just because his arm is a bit up, but it does droop a little bit lower. Maybe there's a way to sort that out, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. I've already swapped out to the seamless arms here. I prefer the seamless arms, but again, for longevity, switch back to the articulated arms or the jointed arms. Just so you don't get these ones cracked or ruined. I won't keep this like this for very long. Actually, in fact, I'm going to put it back in this box after this video because I've got no way to display them. But otherwise, yes, moving on to the rest of the figure is going to be the same. The belts, by the way, are different. He's got black belts here, and then the other one was brown belts, but they are otherwise the same sort of style and design. Coming down to the pants, they're similar in style, just different color. And then the boots are basically the same as what Zack First Class is wearing as well. And here's the soles of that. So really great looking figure as well. Now for articulation, it's basically going to be the same for both the first class one and the second class one, with some slight differences here or there based on basically the hair. So for example, first class Zack has much longer mane or mullet, so you're not really going to be able to do much with the back. But generally speaking, yes, he does have pretty good head articulation. He can lean it side to side and look left and right. Yeah, depending on where you've got the shoulder guards pointing, they might kind of clash with his chin, so keep that in mind as well. I did show you the arms. The arms do articulate decently, but when you've got them attached, you can lift his arms up. It's a bit more tricky on camera. You'll get a decent T-pose out of it. I'm not going to overdo it right now. Just be mindful if you're using the seamless arms though, that this will clash with this and this will rest in the arms, and you may end up getting a dent in the arms over time. Keep things like that in mind. The midsection for both the figures is quite poor. He doesn't really have a lot going for him. He has a twist like somewhere around there, like down, further down. It's a little bit trickier to do it on a first class Zack, but it does exist. But he's got nothing up top here, so he can't really like lean forward or anything like that. That's about as far he goes. We can't do anything. Everything kind of happens here. So it does leave a lot to be desired, like a lot. So it's something that I hope they improve on in future figures. It doesn't mean that, it's a deal breaker by any means. And I guess he doesn't really need it. This is more of a beauty or aesthetic looking figure, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of kind of torso midsection articulation in future versions of figures of whether it's Zack or some other character. Legs are going to be pretty decent. He kind of split like so, probably a little bit more. If you play around with the pants, just don't do it too much, otherwise he'll split his pants. He's got a bit of a twist at the thigh bit, which you can play around with, and then you got the bend in the knee, like so, which is quite good. And because of his puffy pants, it actually looks good, right? And then we come down to the ankle. It does twist and everything like that, and it does pivot and angle, but because of rubber high tops, you're going to get a little bit of resistance. So I would recommend using a stand just to make sure that you get the right pose that you want, and then that it doesn't topple over. That's basically it for the articulation. I already talked about the arm articulation much earlier in the video. First class Zack is basically the same as well. Let's now attach a couple of different items. So we'll start with second class Zack again, because it's going to be the same with first class. To get the sword attached to the back, you take off that little bit there. I'm going to sit Zack down, second class there. He's not lying down right on his hair, so don't worry about that. And then we'll grab that little piece that I mentioned before. So this one is going to be mostly for second class Zack. You just got to line this up to the back, and it pretty much only fits one way. Now I'm probably going to have to cut this off and do it off camera because it's a little bit tricky and small parts, and I don't want to damage a very gorgeous looking figure. But let's get this on. Once this is on, you can put the sword into it, but it's probably better to slide the piece onto the sword first. Otherwise it just kind of comes off. So I'll just demonstrate that for you right now. So you want to kind of force this down just where it meets that gold accent bit there. Hopefully it stays. Now because it is a metal sword, it does add a little bit of weight to it, and I'm conscious that it might fall off, but that's why I'm keeping my hand at the back so it doesn't just clang about. So you can see how he might look when he's got the Soldier basic sword equipped in second class. And it looks pretty good. It's a tiny looking sword though, actually. But that's what that Zack is going to look like. And I'm going to lay that down. There you go. The sword kind of fell off already. I'm going to put second class Zack away, and then we're going to look at the first class Zack and attach him with the Buster Sword as well. But I'm not going to show you, by the way, how to swap hands because, again, that's a little bit tricky to do on camera. It's just something that you're going to have to take time with. Use a hairdryer if you need to. So just like with second class Zack, we're going to take off that little back piece there. It gives us access to the Buster Sword. Now, you want to use the material piece here. So this basically fits in, again, one way, but because of this material slot, you can angle the Buster Sword. Once you've got the material bit added in, you can then attach the Buster Sword on the kind of bottom slot here. So that's how it's going to look when you've got the Buster Sword equipped. Now it is again a weighted item, not as heavy as the metal basic Soldier Sword. So keep in mind that that might slip off, so hopefully you won't damage anything. And that's first class Zack equipped with the Buster Sword, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Absolutely stunning figure. Definitely. You can put it in a more dynamic pose if you want to, but I think even like this, a more boring pose, I think it looks totally good as well. So same thing for second class Zack. Really play around with what your display can allow and what you prefer yourself. And this is second class Zack holding onto his sword as well. Really great looking figures, the both of them. Now I do have Cloud and Sephiroth, but they are packed away at this stage. Now I do know Zack is going to be middle in terms of height, so it's going to be Cloud is the shortest, then Zack, and then Sephiroth, including the way these guys are, the figures themselves, and as well as their game height in terms of Final Fantasy VII Remake as well. If you do have Cloud or Sephiroth, this Zack Fair figure is going to look really great with him. Now, in summary, a very long summary I might add, is that this is another fantastic release by Gametoys. They've got magicians working there, and I mean that in like the most positive sense. This is a really nice looking figure. Now, unfortunately, you do have to buy first class to get the second class one as well, as in to get all the parts to make and complete the second class Zack figure. So you kind of don't have a choice. You need to get both if you still want to get a second class. I'm a big Zack Fair fan, so for me the price wasn't really much of an issue. Like, I'm used to this price now, but for some people the price might be an issue, especially now on the aftermarket pricing. They kind of jumped up as soon as this figure released. So for me, my advice is, if you have money to save up or can save up, especially in the current climate, and there's one figure that you want, I would say prioritize Gametoys. Their stuff is truly, truly remarkable. Excellent quality stuff, and you won't be disappointed. Handle them with care, but definitely you will not be disappointed. This Zack Fair figure, just amazing quality. Really, really is amazing quality. Just like the Cloud before it, and the Sephiroth before it, and even Ichigo from Bleach that they first started with as well. Really top tier stuff. Now, just like I said with Cloud and Sephiroth before, it's like having the CG models kind of plucked out of the game and planted on your display. It really does look great. It's something that you need to see in person and handle yourself to really truly believe and appreciate. The promo shots, don't get me wrong, they are good, and even my stuff, like, it's good, it displays it in a good way, but it's not enough. I think you need to see this on display somewhere, own it yourself, or just maybe a friend owns it. In person is what I'm trying to say. That's when you truly appreciate that these figures, they actually exist in this type of quality. Truly amazing stuff. Now, I am looking forward to Gametoys stuff in the future if they still kind of stick around. They're planning to do Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, Tifa and Aerith from 7 Remake as well. I'm excited for those, but for me, Final Fantasy 8 holds a special place in my heart, so I'd really love them to tackle Final Fantasy 8, whether they're kind of inspired by the Dissidia kind of look of 8. I don't mind that, but I love to see them try Final Fantasy 8. And even outside of Final Fantasy, I'm happy for them to try and do some other sort of properties as well. I'm a big Street Fighter fan, so I'd take Street Fighter as well, even though there's official ones coming out there. But with all that said, what a fantastic figure again. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. See you next time.